Chapter 27. The next day I visited the boys. I knew I'd find them in their new place, an alley behind a fire-gutted butcher shop. Before I got there, I could hear them, a whacking sound followed by cheers. And again, whack, then cheers. What was happening? I turned the corner. Big Henrik was holding Kuba upside down by his ankles, while Ferdy walloped Kuba's rump with a big bone, one of the many that were laying around. Ferdy stopped when he saw me. Misha, come on, knock out your lice. Then I saw. Each time Ferdy walloped Kuba, a tiny blizzard, like salt, fell from Kuba's hair to the ground. With every blow, Kuba swung back and forth like the pendulum of a grandfather clock. When it was over, Kuba took the bone from Ferdy. He said, "Your turn, Mish." Just because he made me think of it, my head was itching more than ever. I could feel them crawling. I got down on all fours in front of Big Henrik. In a moment, I was hanging upside down, staring at his knees. "Get ready," said Kuba. And then I heard Ferdy's voice. "Wait, the book!" Ferdy stuffed a book down my pants, and the world shook as Kuba gave me the first wallop. Another voice came screaming, "Stop it! Stop it!" I twisted my head as best as I could, and I saw Janina attacking Kuba, kicking him, punching him. Ferdy grabbed her, held her flailing. "I'm not hurting him," said Kuba. "Who's this?" said Enos. "This is Janina," I said as Kuba swung the bone. Then between wallops, "My sister!" By the time Kuba was done with me, Janina was yapping, Me! She was heading for Big Henrik when Enos said, "You can't have a girl in a dress hanging upside down. She needs pants." I was the littlest, so I was elected. I took off my pants and gave them to Janina. I stuffed in the book, and upside down she went, and Kuba started walloping away. With each spank, she gave a yelp and a laugh. I had a thought. Maybe her angel will come out. This was my latest information from the boys on angels. Every person carries his or her own angel inside. When the rest of you is killed, the angel comes out and flies off to heaven. When I asked where heaven is, well, everyone had a different answer. Kuba said Russia. Oleg said Washington, America. Enos said, "You're all stupid. It's right here, Warsaw, the other side of the wall." As I watched Janina's little body jump with every spank, I couldn't imagine the angel inside her putting up with such a disturbance. I stared and stared, but nothing came out of her but yelps and laughs and lice. Kuba finally stopped. Janina was begging for more. She wouldn't give up my pants. Everyone laughed as I chased her around the rubble, the book bouncing in the pants like a load of horse flop. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. I turned around. 4 people were standing at the corner of the charred butcher shop. Everyone, even Janina, stopped and stared at them. They were 2 couples. The men were jackboots. Their buttons glistened like morning stars on their uniforms. The ladies were blonde hair and wore little white hats and white gloves. All 4 of them were smiling. One of the jackboots was holding something. It was black. I was pretty sure it was a gun or a weapon. I wondered, why aren't we running? And then I saw movement. Janina was walking towards them. I called out, "Janina, no!" Still smiling, the jackboot raised the weapon. He held it up to his eye, aiming it at her. "No!" I charged into the jackboot. He didn't budge. He reached down with his free hand and tossed me aside. He aimed again, threw the weapon at Janina. I heard click. Enos called, "Misha, stop! It's a camera. It takes pictures." I didn't know what he was talking about, but I backed off. The man with the camera aimed and clicked again. Beside me, Janina was doing a dance in the dust and smiling at the cameraman and saying, "Do it again! The couples were no longer just smiling. They were laughing out loud. The ladies were clinging to their man's arms and to keep from falling over from laughter. Then one of the ladies pinched her nose, and the other pinched her nose. And they laughed louder, and the cameraman took more pictures. And the more they laughed and took pictures, the faster Janina danced and laughed. The dust she kicked fell on their shoes. When the laughing died down, Janina stepped forward. She walked up to one of the ladies and said, "Do you live on the other side?" The lady did not answer. She just looked down and smiled. Then Janina reached down and touched the skirt of the lady's black and white checkerboard dress. The lady's smile vanished. She stepped back from Janina's reach. She looked down at the dust on her white shoes. She said something to the others. The smiles came back. The man taking pictures gave the camera to his lady. He motioned to Janina and me to stand side by side. He stood behind us. I could feel him smiling. He was close, but he never touched us. He said something to the lady. She aimed and clicked. Maybe they'll shoot us now, I thought. But they didn't. They merely went away. As they were leaving, I called, "Aren't you going to shoot us?" They didn't respond. Enos hurried over. "Stupid gypsy." He smacked the back of my head. "Learn to shut your stupid mouth." I wish Yuri were there. I preferred that he do the smacking. "Who were they?" said Ferdy. "Soldiers with their girlfriends," said Enos. "Out for a stroll in the ghetto. It's Sunday." "What's Sunday?" I said. Enos sneered. "The day they don't shoot you." Back on the streets, we saw other soldiers and girlfriends strolling about. The jackboot ladies wore white gloves. I couldn't stop staring at the gloves. They were whiter than snow. Chapter 28. Summer was flies. I thought of them as little birds. I remembered real birds. I remembered them singing as I lay in tall grass that smelled like carrots. Except for crows, birds did not come to the ghetto. There was no bread for them to eat, no seed. The crows that came did not sing. They squawked at each other. They seemed to say, "Over here, I found one," or "Stay away, this is mine." There was always plenty for them to eat. They ate people, crows and flies. The wagons came in the morning. There had just been a few horses left pulling the morning wagons. But the jackboots took them, so now men became horses. When a wagon came to a body, it stopped and the men went to the body. Not all bodies were dead. If a body had flies but no crow, it might still be alive, especially if it also had no newspaper over it. Sometimes crows pecked away the newspaper. When the men came to a body, the crows usually walked away. They walked 5 or 6 steps and turned and squawked at the men. One man took hands, one took feet, and they flopped the body onto the wagon. When the body flopped onto a pile, the whole wagon load of flies jumped into the air, like lice from a walloper. Then they settled back down again, and a crow or two landed and went along for the ride. I used to think if a body had no shoes or socks or coat, it was dead. But then I saw such one body climb out from under a pile on a wagon and just walk away. The men had made a mistake. But you could count on crows. They never made a mistake. Some people died from sickness, some from hunger. There wasn't much I could do about the sickness, but hunger, that's where I came in. Feeding my family, and as much as possible, Dr. Corsac's orphans, was what the world had made me for. All the parts, the stealing, the speed, the size, the rash stupidity, came together to make me the perfect smuggler. Janina followed me everywhere, my shadow. I went through the wall at night, and there she was, behind me, with a sack of her own. I never spoke to her. I pretended she wasn't there. We raided the Blue Camel Hotel. We raided the finest homes in Warsaw. We had many favorite kitchens. One was a special favorite because we always found pickled herring there. We must have felt very comfortable in that kitchen because we always turned the light on. One night, we were sampling the herring when I heard Janina say, "Hello." I turned. A little boy was standing in the doorway. He wore pajamas. He was squinting in the light. The boy mumbled, "Who are you?" "I'm Janina," she said. She suddenly sounded very grown up. She pointed at me. "This is Misha." The boy kneaded his fists in his eyes. "Are you Jews?" Janina laughed. "I'm Jews? Oh no, we would never be Jews. Not us." She held out a piece of herring. "Want some fish?" The boy took the fish, and for the next hour, the three of us sat around the kitchen table, eating pickled herring and crackers and sugar cookies and milk. Drinking the milk, I thought about Dr. Corsac and the cow. We told the little boy we were playing a game called Whisper so he wouldn't talk or laugh too loud. When we went to the window with our sacks full, the boy wanted to come with us. He cried. We told him we would be back again to visit him, but I knew we could never return to that house. At first, Janina's father did not know she went smuggling with me. He was always sleeping when we slipped quietly out of the room. I think Uncle Shepsel was often awake, but he never said anything. Then came the night we returned, sacks full, and found a lineup happening in the courtyard. Jackboots shouting, jackdogs snarling, blinding lights. Filthy sons of Abraham! We hid our sacks and sneaked behind the last row of people. We crept around until we found the Milgrams. We squeezed in between Uncle Shepsel and Mr. Milgram. I was shocked to see Mrs. Milgram standing in line. Her head drooped on her chest. It was very poor attention. Mr. Milgram's hand came down and squeezed Janina's ear. She squeaked. A nearby jackboot was shouting, "You smelly animals! You stink! Don't you ever wash?" I hoped Buffo wasn't there. This was his chance to get me. A man with a bullhorn was up front. "We know that you are doing it. This is your first and last warning. You will be caught. Yes, yes. And when you are caught, you will be shot. If you are lucky. If you are not lucky, we will hang you. Either way, you are dead. One way is slower, more painful. Do you understand?" "Jawal," I called out, using the jackboot word for yes. No one else spoke. This time, it was my ear that got squeezed. I looked up at Mr. Milgram. "What is he talking about?" He whispered, "You. Smugglers. You must stop now." I did not stop, but I tried to make Janina stop. The next time she followed me into the night, I stopped in the courtyard and told her to go back. "No," she said. "Your father wants you to stop," I told her. "He'll be mad if they shoot you." "No." "They'll hang you." "No." "You get in my way. You're a filthy Jew." "So are you." "No." I could barely see her face in the darkness. I smacked her. This time I didn't give her the chance to smack me back. I pushed her to the ground. She came flailing at me, and I hit her and pushed her again, hit her again. She was crying. I left her there and walked away. She didn't come after me. She started yelling, "Misha's going to the wall! Misha smuggles! Misha smuggles!" Out in the street, a whistle blew. I ran back to her. I clamped my hand over her mouth. "Okay!" I said, "Okay!" I yanked her hair. Her yowl echoed in the courtyard. The whistle blew. We ran.